Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Boker Tov, good morning. Last week we focused on the second blessing before Shema, and before that the first. So we have looked at Yotzer Or, at the experience of the divine and the ongoing unfolding of creation, and Ahava Rabbah, where we experience the divine and acts of love, perhaps best exemplified by the gift of Torah learning. So we're going to skip ahead now. There are three blessings in this section. We've covered the two before the Shema. What would come next in the order is the Shema itself, but we're going to skip ahead to the third blessing, the one that comes after the Shema, and then we'll return to the Shema after we cover it. So the blessing after Shema is known as the blessing for Geula. Here we talk about our experience of the divine in liberating acts of human history, as best exemplified by the parting of the Red Sea, by our leaving Egypt, but manifested all kinds of subsequent ways. So we give thanks for God's liberating power in our lives. But the beginning of the blessing, before we get into more specifics around that, the beginning provides a kind of link to the end of Shema that immediately precedes it. Shema ends with the words Ani Adonai Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, which means I am the Holy One, Adonai, your God. And the blessing after Shema begins with the words Emet v'yatziv. Emet v'yatziv is true and enduring, and magnificent and moving and awesome is God's word, the blessing continues. So to create a kind of bridge, the practice is that in our prayer and our davening, we combine those last words, Ani Adonai Elohechem, with the first word of the blessing, Emet. And we say, Adonai Elohechem, Emet, Adonai, the Holy One, our God, Elohechem, Emet, is truth. Now the word for truth, Emet, is an interesting word. It contains, says the Midrash, more or less, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the Aleph Bet, the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph is the first letter, Taf is the last, and Mem is at least close to the middle. So the word represents something like, we would say, from A to Z. Truth, the letters that spell out the word tell us is the beginning, the middle, and the end, which would make one think that it is the most important of all virtues. But in some ways, this is more complicated. Rabbi Lisa Goldstein of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality recalls a famous Jewish tale in a meditation on truth, on Emet, that I would like to share here. So here's what she writes. The truth is, telling the truth is not always so easy. A sage, a story in the Midrash, tells that when God created human beings, the ministering angels broke into factions. The angels of justice and of loving kindness were in favor of the new creation, saying that people would do acts of tzedek, of justice, and of chesed, of deep loving kindness. But Shalom, the angel of peace, objected that people would be constantly engaging war and shouldn't be created. In truth, Emet agreed because humans would be filled with deceit. So while these angels are debating whether God should make human beings, God responds by hurling truth down to the earth. Well, the other angels, even those that disagree with truth, rush to its defense. They ask, is truth not your seal? Beginning, middle, and end. And quoting Psalm 85, they added, let truth spring up from the earth. The story ends with God bringing truth back up to heaven, but before the argument over creating humans can continue, God says, it's too late, I've already made them while truth was down there. Rabbi Goldstein continues, in this rabbinic take on human nature, truth, of course, tells the truth. Human beings will have a hard time living truthfully. But I find the end of the Midrash ambiguous. Did truth return to the heavenly abode? Or did it remain among us down here to instruct and inspire us? What makes it so difficult to tell the truth? I consider times I have knowingly lied, and most of them arose from an attempt to save face. The greater damage to others, however, came from the times I lied almost unknowingly because I had not told the truth to myself. In those cases, truth was too painful for me to face. I remember certain situations in which the truth sprang up in me as a clear voice, but I didn't want to hear it, and I looked away. I pretended I did not know, and somehow I did not know. The lies I told then were the most harmful because I believed them myself. How can we get better at telling the truth? One practice emerges from the mystical tradition in which truth is the balancing point, the middle, between endless flow of loving kindness and the firm rigor of judgment. Truth is not the opposite of kindness. Instead, it can be found by holding kindness and judgment at the same time. So let's reflect for a couple of moments on the nature of truth in our lives. What are the truths that we run from? What are the truths that are hard to tell to ourselves, and how do we cover them up by avoiding or by lying to ourselves? As we reflect on this, let us remember Adonai Elohechem Emet. The true holiness is in the truth that the Holy One, our God, is a source of and is found in Emet, in truth. Adonai Elohechem Emet. 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 Adonai Elohechem Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Just to note that we will have our Torah study today at noon. Our Talmud study will be tomorrow, Tuesday, at noon. And we will close with the counting of the Omer. Today we focus on Netzach and on endurance. And our focus for the day is on Netzach Shebenetzach, and endurance within endurance, on abiding, continuing endurance. Rabbi Kariolitsky writes, throughout our time in the desert, we seek to build a relationship with the Holy One, and it is often determined by the variety of our experiences with the Holy One. And so our understanding of the divine changes as our interactions with the holy change. But even when the connection seems strained, we turn to Netzach Shebenetzach, to the power of abiding endurance, and acknowledge the influence of the Holy One in our lives and our ongoing search for holiness, to make holiness real in our words and in our deeds. Hayom Chamisha V'Esrim Yom Shehem Shlosha Shavot V'Arba'a Yamim LaOmer. Today is the 25th day of the Omer, 3 weeks and 4 days of the Omer.